One of the young people that I want to introduce today is Will. He's been kind of really a superstar with this program over at Newburyport. And I want to make sure I give Will a proper introduction here, so I'm going to read off the paper. Will's a sophomore student at Newburyport High School, and he's been involved with MVP this past year. In his free time, Will is involved with the theater in the Open, and recently Will was chosen as Newburyport High School Student of the Month for the month of February. And we couldn't have a better ambassador for this issue at Newburyport than Will. So Will, please come up here and say a few words. Thanks.
Hi, I'm a sophomore, that's all. In the past 2 or 3 years, I've been pretty aware about coming into manhood, or whatever it is that I'd be coming into. And I thought a lot about, well, I didn't really think a lot about was that it was a respect that I've had forever for women, because I grew up with babysitters and grandmothers and aunts that I've pretty much lived with, and they raised me in a way. So I hadn't really thought too much about how I treated them, because it wasn't really in my line, because it was just natural. And so when I started getting into reading 2 years ago, I read a folklore called Bluebeard, which was in France, and it's about an aristocrat who persuades a woman to marry him, and she then finds out that in the house there are 6 bodies of women that he had killed before who were his wives. And I thought a lot about this whole idea that this guy with all this money would take these women and objectify them to the point that when he was done with them, he would just kill them and kind of discard them for whatever they were to him. And so this whole idea of objectification and these way that men can treat women kind of made me want to disassociate myself with it, with the idea of the masculine, that I didn't really want to be associated with the violence that can come with that, or even just the mentality that men can have towards women, anything like that. And so with all these thoughts coming into my head within the past year, MVP kind of came at the right time and like perfectly showed that I can be a masculine in a healthy way, and I can help other people do that in a way. And so I wrote down some stuff actually. The program, I was just reading over a packet because they just gave it to us to go out now and help out other kids with this idea, and talk to middle schoolers and other folks that we can, and pretty much just spread it anywhere. I was reading the packet this weekend, and the way that it's told is to ask questions to the people that are learning. The MVP didn't go up there and just say, using the word bitch or whore or slut, this is a bad thing to do and don't do it. They asked more what we thought about it and proposed it in a way that the students were the ones getting to conclusions, and that we agreed with it because we came up with it ourselves, or they almost just guided us to the information, and there was a lot more thinking and talking that went involved with it, and I thought that was a lot more effective. So when we deal with ideas with like gender roles and masculinity, we talked about a box, which is that we are put into a box as the masculine or as the feminine, and when we step out of the box, we are policed by the same gender. And that, there's nothing more prominent to that than when you're in a high school. The boxes that you're put in and the policing that goes on from your peers, anybody that you sit with, talk with in the locker room, it's very real and very obvious. So that really got me thinking a lot. And we did one thing that we did was we split up into groups one day and we wrote down on pieces of paper with that group ways that men can abuse women verbally, emotionally, physically, and sexually. And then we shared with the entire group what we came up with, what we found. And then after that, the MVP, Betsy and Riccardi, had us go back and write ways that we can respect the feminine with those. So with every single one, the same group did how we can abuse a woman sexually and how we can sexually respect her, and so on with all the other ones. And that whole idea, they're not saying, it's not like they're going out there and saying, like, there's hope. They're just showing us that there is hope. I guess I don't really know if I'm making that correct. But we kind of get that we can solve it, and that we don't have to be so down because we have people like the MVP that are changing a bit. And we talked a lot about bystanders, which was already spoken about, that there's a lot of power in the bystander to change. And I was talking with a woman the other day. She just graduated from college. And she was working with rape victims and women who are abused by their spouses. And I was kind of, like a little proud to say I was in the MVP, and I was like, yeah, I'm doing this thing at high school. And she was like saying that's the best thing that they can do, because it's going before the matter, and it is a prevention thing. It's in the name. But she thought it was so cool that we were talking to people that were in high school and below. I kind of got really proud to be in that, because like we were talking when an Olympic athlete who people look up to for what he's doing, he's now in the news for killing his girlfriend. That kind of makes me sad about if there is hope in so much. And then the next day we talked about that in MVP, so I was pretty stoked about it. And I don't know, I guess that's all I have to say.
Yeah.